again, and thank you for joining us today. I am Delvin Youssef, and I'm excited to spend my morning with you all for our webinar, Bots Are Getting Smarter, Identifying AI Agents in the Wild. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Fingerprint is a device intelligence solution that allows companies to identify their online visitors with unmatched accuracy. We help you reduce fraudulent transactions, strengthen account security, and improve customer lifetime value. Before I hand things over to our speaker, I have a few housekeeping items to go over with you all. If you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the Zoom Q&A box, and we'll leave time at the end to answer as many as we can. Today's session is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be shared with you after the webinar. You can enable closed captioning at any point at the bottom bar in your Zoom panel. And then presenting our session today is Keisha Rose, our Senior Developer Evangelist. Keisha empowers developers to build secure and seamless online services with demos and technical content to help fight fraud. Keisha, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Delvin. Let's hop right into it. So today we're going to be talking about AI agents, bots, automated scripts, and how to detect them and what that looks like in today's world. Before I even get too far into things, let's just make sure we're all here on the same page and level set. So when I'm talking about a bot, I'm specifically talking about automated scripts or programs that are interacting with websites, and they're doing so without any real-time human interaction, right? They're running on their own, maybe they're mimicking human behavior, and they're trying to take some sort of action on your website. So that being said, I think we can all agree all bots are bad, for sure, right? Like that's definitely that's definitely the case. Okay, well, maybe not all bots. How about almost all bots are bad? I mean, there's things like search engine crawlers, right? There's health status bots and those types of things. I guess there might be some other good bots. Okay, you know what? Fine. Most bots are definitely bad, right? I think we can all agree on, okay, you know what? Maybe not, right? This is a brand new world that we're in. I'm sure you all have been, keeping up to date with all the new AI tools and agents and things out there. And now we can no longer just say that almost any bot coming to your website is a bad bot or they're doing some kind of attack. This is an example of Project Mariner, where they're using, this automated browser to go through and actually, purchase things for your groceries on Instacart, etc. So the question that we're looking at now, instead of just, is it a bot, but which bots are bad? And before I continue a little bit more, I would love to hear from you guys. I've got a few poll questions here. I'd love to hear from you what you guys are seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and launch these. We're going to go one at a time. There's only three simple questions. They're multiple choice. Don't worry, you didn't have to study for the test, I promise. The first one up here we've got, let's see, I'm going to launch. So first of all, I want to know, are your users or are your customers using AI agents today to interact with your product? Do you know if that's happening? Go ahead and respond in the poll. I'd love to see your responses here. If you do know, do you know? Do you not know? Are you able to determine that? Are you still questioning? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Let's see what's going on here. All right, we're seeing a bunch of responses coming in, about 40% of you so far. I'm going to leave it open for another 10 seconds or so, and we'll take a look at the responses. Okay, all right. So pretty wide variety here. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. And just to see here, I think I can share these results. Let's see. There we go. You should be able to see these results as well. So we got about 40% of you saying yes, and you do see it in your traffic. And then we've got 20% saying almost certainly, but we're not quite sure, or we don't think so. 20%, so like 43% of you are saying we don't think so, but we're not sure. 10% of you not likely, and then 5% of you no visibility into this at all. So it seems about 50% of you are like, yes, we definitely know, or we know that they're there or not there. And the other half of you are like, we're not quite sure, we're not sure yet. Great. The next one I'd love to go through here is, for those of you that are seeing bots and automated scripts and such coming to your website, are you able to differentiate between the malicious bots versus legitimate AI agents, things that are helping people to actually access and use your website or purchase your goods and services, etc.? Are you able to differentiate those? Let's see, we got a few responses. I'll give a few more seconds here to get those in. All righty, let's see what we've got here. Okay, last second. Okay. So on this one, okay, about 10% of you said we have a reliable established method. And then we've got about 40%, 41% saying we have something, but it's inconsistent or it's incomplete. 32% said we don't. And right now they're getting treated the same. Yikes. And then 18% of you said we haven't needed to make a distinction yet. I think you're going to in the near future. But that's great. Love to hear it. And then our last question here, taking a look at your bot strategy in general. So what is your current strategy for handling bots on your site? It sounds like some of you might be blocking any type of bot, or maybe the opposite, allowing anybody in. So curious to see what is your current strategy for handling these bots that are coming to your website? All right, got a few coming in. I appreciate you guys answering these questions so quickly. I didn't have to pull teeth to get responses. I love that. And it does help me as I go through the webinar as well, just to see what folks are encountering. Okay, great. We've got a good amount of responses here. All right, let's take a look. Let's see. So we've got about 25% that are saying that they're blocking anything that looks like a bot. Yikes. I think that's, as you'll see today as we go through, we're gonna have to change that strategy a bit. 70% are saying they're allowing the known good bots like search engine crawlers, etc., and blocking everything else. 25% of you are trying to identify and categorize first, then deciding. And then about a third of you currently don't have a defined strategy. Well, for all of you, I am glad that you are here on today's. Let me share those results as well. I'm glad that you're here on today's webinar so you can maybe learn some new strategies to help you differentiate those bots and figure out what works best for your use case. All righty. Thank you again for those poll responses. So let's get into it. So we know, I'm sure all of you are familiar with AI and the new agents and capabilities that are out there today. And really it's a great thing, right? These AI agents are able to do things on our behalf, which is improving accessibility. It allows people to do things that they weren't able to do before or to do them in a much easier way. It also allows us to automate those annoying tasks or do those little menial things for us. And it gives us really personalized interactions as well, right? That assistance, it knows us, it gets to know our preferences and can really help us that way as well. Also, it's unlocking a lot of knowledge and making it easier to find information, which is great. All these things are awesome. However, on the other hand, they also can kind of suck because these AI agents are so smart and so capable. They are able to make it a lot easier for, bad actors to commit fraud or abuse. And they also tend to appear more like humans because unlike the traditional scripts that maybe would go through and try and find certain elements on a website and to try and interact with, they're a bit more rigid and fragile. AI agents are able to actually see the web page. They're able to interact with it. They can pivot if something goes in a different direction than they would expect it to. And they're able to do this at a brand new scale, right? You can say, okay, let's launch a bunch of these different agents to go forth and do whatever types of attacks or abuse that you want to do. And that can include things like automated card testing, right? So trying to see if you can get a verified credit card to use for fraudulent transactions. That can also be things like data scraping, going forth and gathering proprietary data. It could be things like a credential stuffing or account takeover. Agents make it super easy nowadays to create more convincing phishing messages and to actually, implement these attacks as well. Folks don't even really need to know how to code anymore. They can have their AI agents build out for them brand new tools to help them automate their abuse. So now we're down to this impossible choice. And as we saw in the poll there, some of you currently are battling this, right? You're like, do we block all the bots and just, we lose some of that accessibility. We lose the customers that are using agentic AI to interact with us. We lose potentially some of that agentic commerce, et cetera. Or the opposite, if you know that your customers are trying to use agentic AI tools, do you then try and allow all the bots in? That sounds like a terrible plan because then you're enabling all the types of fraud, right? We know that bots and scripts and even AI agents now are being used for fraud and to commit all types of abuse, trying to impersonate people and act as humans, all of this at scale. So how do we go about this impossible choice? Well, with old traditional bot detection, it really was just a matter of is it a bot or is it a human, right? Is it a bot or not? Things like CAPTCHA, which we know now are beatable by bots and AI tools with 100% accuracy. And now with these AI agents, there's a higher mix of what we would consider to be a good bot, right? A legitimate bot being used by a human for legitimate reasons. And also, additionally, there's the case where agents are actually using real browsers. So, more so than just looking at the browser itself or the tools itself, we now have to think about what is the intent of this user, regardless of if they are automated or not. What is their overall intent? And then, of course, these traditional bot detection tools can sometimes also block legitimate users. So, we want to be really careful to not have false positives on this bot detection. So going forward, how do we design for AI agents knowing that these are already in the market, they're already being used? So I think, like I just said, we have to separate automation from abuse. Obviously, we're still going to have some of the classic cases. If you think about, DDoS attacks and credential stuffing, where they're just kind of spamming something over and over again. That type of abuse, I think, is still going to look the same. But there's going to be a new trend, or we're already seeing it already, where AI is able to be a bit more sophisticated. So we need to now separate just automation from abuse and think about intent. Some of the ways you can do that is to gate higher risk actions, right? So maybe you allow AI agents and bots to do certain types of actions versus other types. So maybe things like, changing your password or account recovery. Maybe we don't let the bot do that, but making a purchase, maybe that makes sense. And that kind of applies to this whole least privilege, situation. We've been using this in general for all types of security, even just internal security. You can think about, who should have access to certain files or programs, etc. The same type of things can apply to bots. Applying that least privilege strategy to the types of actions that can happen in your website. So things like logging in, making a purchase, changing account details, etc. Figuring out what are the types of things that you would maybe expect a bot to help with. Buying a flight, buying the groceries, like we saw in the Instacart example. Those types of things maybe you allow, and then the higher risk ones you don't. Now, of course, in order to do that or any of these types of strategies, you need to be able to actually identify those, legitimate AI agents before you can trust them. And that's where Fingerprint can help you with that. So as Delvin mentioned in the beginning, we are a device intelligence platform. We have two main products. I'll just go through these quickly and we'll move on to some more of the AI detection stuff. The first thing is our visitor identifier. Basically, we grab over 100 different signals from the user's browser or device, whether it's browser signals, network signals, etc. And we combine that all into one highly accurate and stable visit ID that can last for a long time, even if they clear cookies, if they're using incognito mode, if they use a VPN, etc. You're able to identify that visitor. And the same thing goes with automated scripts and bots as well. Now, our other main product is our smart signals. So on top of this reliable recognition of browsers and devices, we also tell you about a lot. The word bot is on my mind. We tell you a lot about the browser or device as well. So we can tell you things like if they're using a VPN, if they're tampering with their browser, if they've cloned your application, trying to be more than one user at once. All of these 20 plus smart signals are available, including our bot detection, which we've now recently expanded to include AI agent detection. So let's get into that. So we now offer authorized AI agent detection via the up and coming emerging protocol WebBot-Auth. So this basically means that legitimate AI agents, AI companies, etc., anyone with an actual legitimate bot that you want to use for humans to interact with websites, etc., they're able to cryptographically sign their AI agents. And every request that comes from one of these AI agents, we can then actually verify that they are who they say they are, right? Of course, with you using Fingerprint to do this, this identity and the information provided is all within our API, our server API, making it very easy for you just as a JSON response. Is it a good bot? Is it a bad bot? Is it an AI agent? Which AI agent is it? And all of this detection is done with 100% accuracy, again, because we've got that cryptographically signed AI agent HTTP signature. So if we take a look at what that actually means, so here's a sample example of what this would look like coming from our server API. So we can see that in this example, it's an AI agent. We can see that it's ChatGPT with the provider being OpenAI. And we can see we've got, identity verified, confidence is high, and we can tell you the provider URL. We also can tell you that it's a good bot, right? We know this bot, it's verified, it's cryptographically signed. And so what authorized means here, or verified, it means that we not only see the signature, we're able to actually check and verify that signature, but then on top of that, we're building a registry of bots as well. We've got our own bot directory where we're working with AI agent companies to actually go through and match up and say, yes, this is specifically ChatGPT or whatever, Claude, et cetera, or other agents as well. Now, once you're able to actually get this information, we're not saying that you should automatically allow, this bot to do whatever. Of course, even legitimate AI agents and tools can still be used maliciously. Of course, many of these AI companies try to put on safeguards and guardrails, but I'm sure you've seen different articles of people jailbreaking their chatbot, etc. So of course, this is just a piece of the puzzle. You should still be looking at things like intent and their actual actions that are being taken on your website. But the overall idea is that you can now start to make policy decisions, like I mentioned before, with the least privilege, accessing high risk actions. All of that can now be based off of the bot's identity instead of just, is it a bot or not? So let's take a look and see it in action. So I am going to, let's see, swap over. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we can see that we're on my local host. This is just a locally running, really very simple example of a flight search page. Basically, you're able to go through, you can pick different locations and you can say, yep, I want a flight from London to Seattle, and it searches flights and it gives you back the results. Okay, very basic, super simple. So the back end of this, here we go. And I promise if you're not a coder, if you're not an engineer, if you don't understand code, that's fine. I'm not going to dig too deep into the code, I promise. I'm just going to uncomment or enable some of these lines as we go through. But basically, let me hide the what I want here. Let's hide the nav bar. We don't even need to see that. So two things that we're looking at here is our front end in this file here and our back end. That's all we need to think about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Fingerprint and show you how we can actually detect when a bot is accessing the website and to protect this proprietary data. Now, before I do that, I do have a simple script here that I can run, and that's going to run here in the bottom right-hand corner. It's going to run and try and find some flight information, and you can imagine this as being some kind of bot or AI agent trying to, get information about your flight prices. Now, in some cases, that might be a good thing. If I'm looking to buy a flight, then I want to be able to access that information. However, if I'm a malicious bot trying to scrape your entire catalog of flights so I can maybe build some kind of competitor product or some kind of competitive intelligence, not so great. So how do we differentiate between these two? Okay, so this is happening beforehand with no fingerprint. And you can see we even have the response here that it found 4 flights. Let's add in fingerprints. So I'm going to bring in the fingerprint library here. We're going to use the use visitor data methods. And basically all we're going to do is when we search for flights, so this is my search flight function, we're going to get data from fingerprint And that's going to return to us a request ID or an event ID. Both of those are the same thing. And we're going to pass that to our backend. So all we're doing is saying, hey, when someone comes to this website and they push this search flights button, we want Fingerprint to gather all those 100 plus browser, device, network signals and determine, have we seen this visitor before? If so, what's the visitor ID? And then that long list of 20 plus signals, we also return that information, including the bot data that I showed you before. All right, so we're getting that on the front end. We'll pass that request ID to the back end. And on our back end, we're just going to import our server API client. You can see I'm grabbing the request ID here that we got from the front end. And then we're going to use the get event method here, this get event function. So the front end, all it's going to return to you is some really minimal data. It's not going to return to you our full catalog of all the signals. And that's just for security purposes. So you don't want to, expose all that information on the front end. So you pass your request ID to the back end, or you can use an encrypted payload as well. And now I can actually use that request ID to get all the details that I want. So in this case, we're only focusing on the bot result. So I'm going to get that information here. And we return, as you saw in the example, if I go back here, there we go. Ooh, come on. This first piece here, bot, good, bad, or not detected, right? That's what we return for that particular field. So in this case, I'm going to say, let's see, if the bot result is equal to bad, then a bot has been detected, and we're not going to return any flights. They don't get any flight data. Now notice I didn't use the not detected. In the past, we usually would say, if the bot result is not detected, then that means it's a human, and then, go ahead, we're good to go. And then we would even maybe potentially block good bots, depending on what you need, right? Depending on your use case. If it's more of a search engine crawling, if you want that type of thing, then you would say, okay, allow good. But usually we'd say, not detected, we don't want any bots of any kind. Not today. Today we're using only if the bot is bad, then I want to block the request. And I think that's all I needed to uncomment here. Make sure I didn't forget anything. Yes, we're good. We should be good to go. So now if I go back to this web page, I'm going to refresh the page. Okay. And if I make a request here, I'm looking for a specific flight. Nothing has changed, right? I am a human visitor. I'm interacting. I'm searching for a flight. My experience has not changed. I don't have to answer a CAPTCHA. I don't have to figure out if the bus is within the lines or not. I hate those. So the user experience has not changed at all. But let's go back to our bot over here and let's see if I run this script again. Remember, this is a bad bot. Aha, so now instead of getting all of your flight data, all your proprietary data, or trying to, log into certain accounts or trying to make fraudulent purchases, now it's being blocked. No flights are found. Great. Now, if we take a look at what this looks like in our dashboard, I can show you in a bit more detail. So let me refresh this page. There we go. So we can see this first one here was me just making that flight request, right? And then this one here is with the bad bot, the headless Chrome. If I take a look at this actual identification, we can go through and see that, yes, this is a bad bot and the bot type is headless Chrome. Awesome. So if we go back, now let's try this from ChatGPT, right? So this is a legitimate agent. It's signed with our cryptographic signature. I'm going to go ahead and turn on agent mode. And since I was working locally, obviously it can't access my local host. I do have this same exact demo set up already on a public facing website. So same thing, you can come in here, right? Search for flights. It's the exact same thing. Oh, well, I probably shouldn't have picked New York to New York. That doesn't make any sense. There we go. London to New York, same thing. Okay, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT to use this particular website. Let's do from London to Seattle. Maybe my family might be visiting. I've got family in London. They can come visit. So I'm going to ask it using only that website. Please find the first flight today for one adult from London to Seattle, and tell me the price. and make sure that you're in agent mode. Great. So ChatGPT is going to go ahead and reach out to that website, and it's gonna show us here in the actual preview to see what it's actually doing. So it's going to set up its own desktop. It's going to open its own browser, and it will actually navigate to that website. Here we go. All right, so it's opening it up. There we go. It's loaded that same website. If only I could make it go faster. This is when I should have prepared some jokes ahead of time. What we've got, go ahead, London is going to be selected from the first drop down. And you can see, right, it's doing this all on its own. I don't know how many of you are familiar with actually using ChatGPT agent mode, if you've been trying it out or using it yourself in your own workflows, whether it's personal or for work. But like I was saying before, it's going ahead and actually just interacting with the website, right? If this was some kind of malicious tool, not ChatGPT, it could be doing all kinds of things on this website. At this point, it's now going to go ahead and click that search flights button, I hope. Yes, wonderful. Great. And I'm not going to wait for this to finish, but because we've seen that it has clicked the button. So at this point, let me go ahead and go back to the fingerprint dashboard so I can show you what that looks like. If I go ahead and refresh this page, you should see. Aha, there we go. So we've gotten our bot detection from the ChatGPT interaction. We can see it's a good bot. And if I take a look at that page here, we can scroll down and we can see that same type of output I was showing you earlier. So now you have this JSON, and again, in the code, for those of you that are familiar with, coding and that kind of thing, it's just this simple. It's really just here's the JSON object. All of these awesome details are in there for you, and you can then build your own custom rules, etc. We also have, of course, our rules engine if you want to do this without code as well, but we are a developer first product. So we have all this for you easily available through our APIs. But yes, as you can see, just like I showed you in the slides, you can see what agent is being used, that it is an agent, that it's a good agent, and where it's coming from. All right. So, and just while I'm here, also, you can see some bunch of other things as well as in this page. If you are curious to see what type of data we return, if you're not a Fingerprint customer already, you can go to our demo page as well. Take a look at demo.fingerprint.com. And this just shows you an overview of the types of things that we return. So we can see what types of things, like I'm not a bot, I'm not using VPN, right? For example, obviously I am a high activity device. I work here, so I'm on this page a lot. We also offer signals for mobile devices as well, things like factory reset, rooting, breaking, emulators, that kind of thing. But if you really are really curious on that JSON response, here it is. You can go through and dig into it detail by detail if you really want to and take a look. And this is working on your own browser, your own machine, so you can try it out for yourself. Alrighty, so heading back. To wrap it all up, automation is clearly not the enemy. I know in the beginning of this, I don't know if you guys had caught the joke, if you weren't sure if I was really going to say that all bots are bad. Obviously, that's not the truth. Automation is not the enemy. AI agents, they're already on your website. I know some of you mentioned in the poll earlier that you weren't sure if they were there. I can tell you, most likely, if it's a public website, they're probably already there. They're probably already there to either gather information. Maybe someone's asking a question about your product or about, your industry, and it's getting information that way. They're already there, maybe navigating and trying to do things, maybe make a purchase or, find information that way. They are already there. So now the question is no longer, is it a bot or not? The question is, how can we identify those bots and how can we think about that intent, right? So those bot signals, it's not just about, okay, yeah, it's a bot, but also, are there signals of tampering as well? Is it being used in some kind of emulator or virtual machine? Is it coming through a residential proxy, right? We give you all of that information so you can really think about the context of these AI agents and these bots that are coming to your website to determine what you should do about them. Things you should think about, of course, identifying these AI agents before giving them trust, making sure you have a secure way of doing so, being also able to to apply identity-based policies, like I've been hammering it to you this whole time, right? We need to think about what should we allow these AI agents and bots to do versus what shouldn't they be able to do. And then, of course, need to continuously monitor automation trends. AI is changing so rapidly, so quickly. I feel like every day there's a new thing happening. There's some new tool, something new exciting. So we really need to continue to monitor what automation looks like on our website, on our mobile applications, wherever your services are. We need to continue to monitor this so we can see how this is affecting fraud and abuse at scale. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and hop in and see if there's any questions. If you had any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to add them into the Q&A. They should be in your Zoom window somewhere, probably at the bottom panel, I believe. Pop that Q&A question box open, and I can go through and take a look at those questions. But thank you so much for your time and attention today. If you do drop off right now, have a great rest of your day. But I'm going to take a look at these questions. I think I've got some already. Yes, I love it. Thank you. I appreciate you guys who have already put questions in here. Okay, amazing. Let's see. Do. What entity is promoting WebBot auth? Okay, great question. So the protocol itself is being promoted and codified by the IETF. It's also being supported by a bunch of other companies like Cloudflare, Akamai, AWS as well. This is a rapidly emerging protocol and standard. I'm pretty sure it's going to become a codified standard in the near future, but it is the IETF that is actually doing the main push for this, if you want to look it up. Let's see. Do. Why are AI scraping bots assumed to be good? Oh, interesting question. So it depends. It depends on the type of bot. So if we're talking about our verified, properly signed and authorized bots, those bots are trying to find information, right? If someone's asking a question, is saying, "Hey, what's the best device intelligence platform out there?" We want it to come to our website and know that Fingerprint is a possible opportunity for them and surface that information. So, depending on your use case, these types of scraping bots could be a good thing for you. However, that's just one piece of information, right? So you want to look through and see what exactly type of AI agent is coming to your webpage. So if I go back here and take a look at our docs real quick, I can show you. Let me see. Make a new tab. And you guys can take a look here yourselves as well. If you take a look at AI detections and let me see here if I can find what I want. Yes, the bot directory. Here we go. So we're growing this bot directory here, but as you can see, they also have different categories. So you can use perhaps the category data here instead of just the overall good or bad detection signal. It's up to you, right? So we just provide you this data and at a high level, and then from there you can use it to make your own decisions. If you take a look here also as well, we do classify some of these bots as bad. So we can see things like Puppeteer or Playwright or Ads Power, those types of things, right? So we still have those in there as well. But this is what you should be using to determine if these types of good categorizations work for your use case as well. All right, let me see. Are you basing this on JavaScript injection into the HTML responses served? I think this question might have gotten answered. I can see that this was earlier on in the webinar. I think this question might have gotten answered when I showed you the demo. So this is how that actually works. We're bringing it in specifically as the fingerprint library, this certain package. You're then choosing, when to actually make that request and that call. And so we're not necessarily injecting anything. You are specifically bringing it in. We do have our brand new, rules engine, which can be deployed for you via Cloudflare. And in that case, you're choosing to say, "Hey, I want you to do all this coding work for me on my behalf." And in that case, we would be injecting this same exact package, right? right? The same idea of just bringing in the fingerprint package. And then from there, we're looking at all the different APIs and the network signals that are coming from that particular user's, their browser or their device. Let's see. Oh, this is an interesting question. Okay. You can submit a bot as good to Fingerprint, which requires the authorization method you talked about. Does Fingerprint use this list of submitted bots plus a whitelist of known good bots as the good indicator only? Or does it decide on its own with some indications of confidence what good bots are in addition to this known list? Great question. So while you can submit your bot, and if you guys have a bot, feel free to submit. You can submit your bot to our registry. We don't automatically just add it to our registry as a good bot, right? This is part of a partnership, so we would go through and do our own investigation and research and make sure that we're actually listing these submitted bots that are good as good. Just because you submit a bot doesn't mean that it's good, right? So it's a combination of things. It's what the bot actually does, the provider of that bot as well, and our own, research. Let's see. These are great questions, guys. I really appreciate all the questions coming in. I think I might have missed one earlier. Do, do, do. Okay, yes. Is user behavior part of your signals? If yes, then how does it work under the hood? And are these results available on the Fingerprint dashboard? Great question. Let me go ahead and pull back up this slide. So these are the smart signals that we provide today. I believe this is the most up-to-date list. I think so. There might be more than this, but these are the ones that we provide today, along with a bunch of raw device attributes here as well. So some of these are based on user behavior. For example, things like factory resetting, that's something that somebody has to actively do, or cloning an app, for example. But we also have things like the high activity device signal as well as our velocity signals. So these types of things tell you if someone's been visiting your site more than a usual amount based on your traffic. And then the velocity signals tell you things like, has this person changed their IP address, or have they magically changed their country? They've figured out teleportation or things like that. So there's a few types of user-based or user interaction-based signals in here. There's more detail specifically on each of these signals in our documentation if you want to take a look at that. But these are the types of signals that we provide. And yes, you can see them in the dashboard as well. I think I showed this maybe after you had asked this question. But yes, so you can see all of the details here for all of these different signals. And if you go to the Smart Signals page, you can also see a bunch of just overall statistics on the types of things that are happening on your website. Obviously, mine's a demo, so it's not really going to see anything exciting here. But you can get an idea of, what those signals look like in your traffic as well. Let's see. Ooh, do, 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 do. Okay, with the larger rise of more local agents like OpenClaw or Hammer's agent running on users' local hardware with the models being cloud-based, how does the bot detection decide whether the bot is good or not? Okay, so there's like two separate questions in here. I think the first one is like, how do we decide whether the bot is good or not? I think I already answered that in the previous question about how we go through categorizations. The second question is more so about, automation that is using the user's actual hardware. And this is a much harder thing to detect. And in these cases, you need to use more of those smart signals, right? So not just the bot detection, because if I'm able to use OpenClaw in my regular, perfectly normal and fine Chrome browser, that's not going to show up as a bot, right? Because it's using the regular Chrome browser to try and make those actions. So in that case, you need to start looking at some of the other signals as well. Like I mentioned, the velocity signals, are they trying to hide their behavior? Are they trying to maybe change their IP address and appear as a different person, right? Using multiple signals together helps you get a bigger picture of what's going on. So you can decide if you want to allow these actions, if they're just perfectly normally good, legitimate actions, or if they're trying to do some kind of fraud or abuse. Let's see. Do, 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 do. Okay, hello, good demo so far. I ran a similar test on my local host with the trigger point being the page load event rather than a click of a button. What strategy can I adopt to detect bots, both good and bad, with higher confidence? In my tests, some bot behavior was not detected. This is from Rohit. Rohit, I'd love to know. Send us your information. We would love to know what you did, what your tests were, and so we can help you specifically figure out what types of things you need to do to implement your thing. Oh, Rohit, you have your hand raised. Oh, you had a little more context. I see. Okay, to add a little more context, in my test, Fingerprint was able to detect bot behavior after some click events, but not right away. Okay, I see. So you're specifically not saying that it wasn't detected at all, but more so on the timing of that detection. So yes, the more time you give between the loading of the fingerprint library and the actual time you request the detection, you will get a stronger bot and other signals detection as well. So usually we say, as I showed you in the example, load the fingerprint library as soon as possible. First thing, page load, have it ready. And then when you're ready to actually detect that visitor, to identify the visitor, then you want to say, okay, on this button click or on login, for example, or when they're trying to make a purchase, that is the best time to do it. Not only does that give you the best chance of getting your detections, but it also means you're only paying for API calls that you actually care about. So we usually recommend that you make that request when you really need it on those active button clicks or action points. All right, let's see. Does your agent detection work for, oh, I think we already answered this OpenClaw question. I'm going to skip that one. Let's see. Lots of I might have to write a blog post about OpenClaw so we can answer these questions. I might do that. Let me see here. Do you think it makes sense to ask the AI agent to log in as we would ask a human? Ooh, this is an interesting question. So I'm trying to extrapolate what you're thinking about here, Lewis, but it sounds like maybe you're thinking about, is there a way to have a separate login system just for AI agents to, say, yes, I'm logging in, and then from there on act on behalf of the human? I mean, maybe that could be an interesting take. I think once you have the proper identification with this new WebBot auth and the 100% accuracy, you probably don't have to do that. But I mean, why not? It's an interesting idea to consider. Let me see here. I think I've answered these ones. How to detect comment browser. So because that one, I haven't tested comment browser myself specifically, but if I was to guess, because that is specifically an automated browser, where you're integrating with AI and the AI can possibly, take action for you, that one I believe would fall under our default bot detection. But I haven't tested it. I haven't tried it out myself. Wow, so many questions. You guys, this is great. Let me see here. I'm trying to pick out the ones that are a little bit different than one we've already answered. So if your question didn't get answered, it's probably because it was similar to something I've already answered before. Let's see. Ba, 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 ba. Let's see. Is bot detection a different product with different billing implications or charged under general fingerprint pricing per request? Interesting question, Mike. As of today, this of course may change in the future, but as of today, bot detection is available with our smart signals. So right now, if you have smart signals, you get bot detection. Of course, that can change at any time, but that's the current package. Do we first generate fingerprint and then get the bot signals as a second API call response, or is it one API call? Great question. So in the example that I showed you today, I used, excuse me, I made two API calls, right? I made the first one on the front end here, getting that request ID, and then I made a second one on the back end, getting the full identification event. You do not need to do that. So if you want to eliminate this second API call, what you can do is you can enable what we call sealed client results. You would add a brand new API key specifically for encryption and decryption. And what we would do is instead of just sending you the request ID and a couple other, a small couple bits of information, we would actually return to you the entire identification event in this first API response, but to be fully encrypted. So you would then send that encrypted response to your backend. And then instead of doing a second API call that might add some more latency, you would then just use your decryption key to decrypt the data and then go from there the same path from there. So you don't have to make two separate API calls. So if latency is an important thing for you, we would definitely recommend using the sealed client results and encrypting and decrypting instead. Let me see here. Do. Okay, what happens if the client strips out your JavaScript? So I'm assuming there's two things that could be going on here in this question. The first one would be that the client has just turned off JavaScript altogether, in which case they probably can't use your website anyways. So that would totally block them from probably doing a lot of things. If you're speaking more so about things like ad blockers or trying to block, these types of things, in that case, we always recommend for any production implementation of Fingerprint that you proxy the fingerprint identification requests. So that way you can avoid things like ad blockers, trying to block Fingerprint from gathering that data and giving you the data that you need to block fraud. All that is written in our documentation as well. So if you're curious, you can take a look at, oh goodness, it's in here somewhere. Here we go. This page on, if your requests are being blocked, we walk you through your options here. You can take a look at all the different integrations we have for multiple different cloud services or just your own custom subdomain as well. Let's see. I think we talked about OpenClaw, real browsers. We talked about real browsers already. Um, do, 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 do. Um, does the bot detection with fingerprinting also work with our public CLI tools? Okay, I'm thinking you're talking more so about like API endpoints, things that are being accessed outside of a web page. We are working on this, so keep an eye out in the future for more expanded bot detection coverage. But as of today, the bot detection is specifically for web pages. However, we are hard at work at trying to expand that. So keep an eye out for a product update coming soon on ways we can help you on that particular situation. Let me see. I think I already answered this question on just the ideas of what AI agents from leading providers would be currently flagged. Again, take a look at the bot detection page in our documentation. You can find everything here at docs.fingerprint.com, and that one was under the AI agent detection. So all that information is here. You can dive in further as well as on our WebBot auth implementation if you're really curious about the nitty-gritty details on how to sign your own agent or how the signing works. All of the stuff I showed you today is in our documentation. La, da, 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 da. Let me see. This question is about Playwright being in our bad bot list. Aren't good bots with their own user agent often built on top of Playwright? It depends. I think it also is a matter of, what is the majority of the usage for things like Playwright or Puppeteer or Selenium, those types of things. And again, the categorization is more so a general place to start, right? You want to look at the actual AI agent or the actual bot or the actual script. And as I showed you in that first example response, we do tell you specifically what tool is being used. So if it's like Selenium, you'll see that particular tool being used. So we're giving you like a general guidance, like usually this type of bot is used for nefarious things, or usually this type of bot is more good, but it's really up to you. We're not going to put our opinion on your use case, right? Our job is to give you that data so you can make the best decisions for your particular environment. Okay. Man, you guys are coming hot and fierce with the questions. I love it. Let me see this next one. Have we gotten this? I think we've talked about local bots already, but let me see. There's a second question here. Um, Oh, okay, interesting. So for client-side automated traffic, what signal or signals make a bot cross the threshold from bot to agent? It depends on the type of bot that it is. In our case, when we're talking about the AI agent detection, we're specifically talking about, things that are verified, things that are coming through as agentic AI. So as of today, those are the types of things that are specifically being categorized as AI agents. So when we give you that information for the bot info for AI agent or browser automation, we're usually looking at things like if we know it's a tool like Puppeteer or Playwright, right? Those already get categorized as browser automation. So we're basing it on things that we already know, and this will continue to expand as we continue to expand our overall bot detection as well. Let's see. I think we talked about the bot login already. Okay, actually, no. If you don't force bot login, how would you track or log bot activity? And you added a couple other scenarios there that I'm not familiar with, but I can answer the first part of your question. So, how would you track or log bot activity, for reporting on later on? You absolutely should definitely still log the bot activity that's coming to your website. I'm just thinking you may not need to necessarily do some kind of bot login. So yes, you should still be logging bot activity regardless, whether you use Fingerprint or not, you should be logging that bot activity so you can monitor what bots are doing on your website, whether they're interacting with your website in a legitimate manner or if they're doing something nefarious as well. So you definitely should be logging. I'm sorry if I made it seem like you shouldn't be logging. You definitely want to log. Log in is a different question, but definitely you should be logging that data. Let's see. How would you prevent data scraping without having fingerprint script check on every page load? It really is up to you. So it depends on what you're trying to prevent. So, in some use cases, having fingerprint load on every page load makes sense if it's really a high priority for you to truly block all of that information, or if it's really high security type of thing, high risk, then that would be the right use case for you. If it's something where maybe you would allow, maybe a few a few times to access your data a few times, and then maybe after like a certain number of people, not people, but a certain number of times accessing your data, you're like, this is probably scraping and not just somebody, looking through a website. Maybe then what you could do is say, hey, we've seen, a certain amount of activity, maybe from a certain IP address, for example, and now we're going to start, identifying with fingerprint to get more details. So you can kind of tweak it to work for your use case, depending on how important it is to you to prevent that scraping, right? How concrete of a prevention do you need to implement is up to you. Let's see. I think this is our last question, maybe. I think the other ones we've kind of covered a little bit. I'll go back through and skim through just to make sure. But let me see. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is a person that asked about the user behavior signals before. Okay, so we don't have signals based on how our user behaves on the page, like mouse movements, mouse trajectory, where and how they click, speed of mouse movement, those types of things. Do you think it's not reliable, or why are you not using these signals? Great question. I definitely do think that these are reliable signals that you should be tracking and looking at. It's just that the way that our detection works, it wouldn't necessarily quite work for some of these types of things. I think I showed you, earlier when we were looking at, we're making identification at a specific point in time. So while we might be adding some of these in the future, I think especially things around like mouse movement, if we're detecting, let's say, really rigid mouse movement, people don't usually move directly from point to point, right? There's usually some kind of jitter in that movement. We might add those things in the future. But for today, the types of things that we're showing you are more so like a specific point in time. So I'm never going to say we won't add these types of things. I'll bring it up to our product lead to see if it's something that they're thinking about. But for our current detections, it's more like at this point in time, here are the signals that we've detected. All right, I think I've answered all the questions so far. And again, if I didn't answer your specific question, it's because we already answered it in another question. But let me just do one more quick scan here. What did the bots that people build? Da, 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 da. Yeah, we talked about OpenClaw. I'm telling you, OpenClaw is so hot. I might write a blog post. Keep an eye out on the blog post to dig into some of the things you can do around OpenClaw and detections there. What to do with bots? Da, 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 da. I think that is it. Yes. Yeah, I think we've covered them all. This is your last chance if you have any last minute questions before we hop out. Let's see. This is a great question. Okay, one last question. Can we ask agents to masquerade itself to evade all the bot detection logic that you implement? This is a great question. So it depends on the agent, honestly. If you're using legitimate agents, things like ChatGPT or Claude, etc., these automated browsers like Common we talked about before, no, because the signals that we use for those types of detections would not change. You currently in those types of tools, you can't ask it to change the way it presents itself. It's not going to change its underlying, environment for the browser. However, there is a new type of attack, if you will, or new technique that I think has been coming a bit more popular. We're actually going to be writing about this. Our CTO is going to be writing about this in a blog post in the next month or so, where AI agents, while they themselves we are able to detect them, they are also able to build new tools, right? They're able to build brand new tools. If you think about, Claude just had that leak recently where we got all of their code. There's new tools like Malice that can do clean code rebuilds of open source, are completely different, but they have the same functionality. We saw Cloudflare recently redid Next.js with vNext, right? This idea where AI agents can actually completely from scratch build you a brand new tool that has all of these detections hidden away to make it completely look legitimate. This is a brand new area that we are currently heavily looking into and researching. And that is where you might see something where it looks legitimate, but it's actually being instrumented by AI. So the AI agents you see today, the ones that are legitimate, the ones that are automating browsers, those are still going to have the same detections. You're not going to be able to just ask them to just change that. You have to actually change the underlying code to make those changes. But as AI makes things a lot easier for people to do these things, this is going to be a new and interesting vector where people can make their own brand new browsers, their own brand new software. And what does that look like when you're trying to detect it? So keep an eye out for our blog post because we are very interested in this area and how we can detect these types of things. All right, I think that is it for the questions. Again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your questions and your interactivity. I had a great time on this webinar. I hope you all learned a lot, about Fingerprint, but also about AI agent detection in general as well. And again, if you have any questions,